Hi everyone. Back in the spring, I went overseas for 3 months to visit my twin sister, her husband, their kids, and all of her in-laws. They live in Saudi Arabia. So at the beginning of our trip, we met in Dubai for 4 days, and I took lots of pictures when I was overseas. And I decided to do my pictures in video format. That way I can give some information about each picture instead of uploading all of my pictures to my blog posts and making really long blog posts with like 100 and something pictures. So I thought that this would be easier. Um, so this One of the things that we did when we were in Dubai is we went to the Dubai Museum, as you see here. It's actually a fort. Well, it was a fort, but now it's a museum. All around the city, you see these trash cans that are painted with different kinds of flowers on them. So I thought those were really pretty. Different colors, different kinds of flowers. And this is outside the museum. And I guess this is a masjid. It's across the street. And I don't read Arabic, so I don't know what it says. That's my sister's husband. He's Saudi. This was another trash can that was outside the museum. Very pretty. Oh. This we're actually going into the museum. There's a cannon. Self-explanatory. This was across the street. This was like some kind of like government agency or something, some kind of like high security place. So I just took a picture of it. We didn't go near it. Outside of the museum, this is the entrance door. You see these like spikes. I guess they're for like stabbing enemies when they come in, that kind of thing. I do not know what that is right there. These are some daggers and some spearheads and axe that they found on the grounds. This was, walking down the hallway, getting to the back part of the museum. Up here you see these little windows. They're on both sides. And then there's these like little poles sticking out of the wall. I don't know what they were for. The fort is actually called Al Fahidi. Again, I'm probably butchering that. But here's some information that you can pause and read. A lot of the pictures have information that you can pause and read. These were swords that they found. Dagger, sword. I guess these are like hats. Not really sure. These are daggers, straight daggers and curved daggers. Getting tongue-tied here. Bows and arrows, armor. I really like this one because of the little seashells. Armor, self-explanatory. And I'm not sure what these are, but they look like handcuffs. Some more spears. Here you see like a curved one. Here's one that looks kind of like, to me it looks like a corn stalk. Here's one that's three-pronged, kind of like a pitchfork. Here's a somewhat traditional seating area. This is more of like, up, but typically it would be on the floor. This is a woman, she's just taking rest. These stairs led up to an area that was not open to the public. The next picture will show that. Here's the area that we couldn't see. This is outside in the courtyard. This is the outside of the kitchen. Clay pots. Let's see. This was inside the kitchen. Pots. I'm not sure what the pots were made out of. Here you see a coffee pot. A pit inside the ground. The fire you cook on, that kind of thing. This was a bed for sleeping outside in the summer. And apparently you sleep on top because there's the ladder. This was a well in the center of the courtyard. This was actually inside like this little house area. Here you see some elementary school children. They were on a field trip. But this was the bed. We weren't allowed to sit on it. But it does have a mattress, and I guess back in the day, they stuffed their mattresses, I guess, with like leaves or feathers or, just whatever they found, that might be soft. And here is a indoor air conditioning system made with burlap bags, but apparently they like refurbished it because you see 11/1999. So basically, it's a 4-chamber air conditioning system. One, two, three, four. It's in the shape of like a square, pretty close to a circle. The next picture will actually show, well, one of the next pictures will actually show what it looks like up on the top. But basically, it catches the air, it forces it down into the little house, and it cools off the house. This was a cabinet. I really like heavy wood pieces, that are carved. These look like little brads, so I'm not really sure, but I thought it was nice, so I took a picture. These were floor mats, but they put them on the wall for decoration. They're made out of like some type of like grass or rattan. This is just some information that you can pause and read. Clay pots outside the little house. This was part of the courtyard. Here's some little boats that they used for pearling. And you can see the wall. There's like, all these like nooks and crannies. You can see like all the stones, and then where it's got like the mud or the cement in between. This is the air conditioning system on top of the roof. So basically what happens is, it catches the wind and then it forces it down into the house and it helps cool the house off. This was another boat for pearling. A cannon. European bronze cannon dated 1785, used in Dubai during the 19th century. And you can hear my birds. Carved wood door. The Middle East is known for their really heavy wood doors that are, have like really nice carved designs on them. That's my sister. We're actually going downstairs to the basement part of the museum. So basically we're going around like this. My sister and her husband. I took this picture just to show, the wood carving, that was at the beginning of the museum. Really big clay pot. Wood doors. Information you can pause and read. And I think this is the Burj Khalifa. I'm not sure. Okay, so the basement part of the museum has like reenactments of different scenes of, life, how it was back then. And each scene, they have these wax figures, for the humans. It's not like real, real people. So this was the first scene. This was, I guess, outside of, the boat area, where they're like loading or unloading, goods from the boat. Here you see, I don't know if that looks like a well. I'm not really sure. But basically there's, a donkey, boxes and bags of goods, crates. Here's, a man, carrying something. Here's the man working. Here's the tip of the boat right here. And here's a crate. This is fake. This is like a water scene painted or something. So basically it's a man with a kufi and a waist wrap. Here's some kids, they're playing with like a toy boat. They're wearing a thobe, which is the traditional Arab dress for men. You see the water, here's the crane. And this is, back in the day, this would be like the typical like man cave. So, it's just, men hanging out. Here's like an old record player that you would wind up. Um, Apparently this is the host, he's serving coffee to his friends. Here's the man smoking shisha, which is typically fruit flavored tobacco. Shisha, it's basically, like a bong, but they're not smoking drugs or anything. And here's a man, hard at work. Here's the side of the man cave. And this is outside the little like a spice shop. And I don't know, this looks like a man that's like sharpening a knife, but I can't say for sure. I'm not really sure. This is a carpentry studio or a carpentry shop. Carpenter shop. You can pause and read that. And zoom in. This is an herb and spice shop, and you see, the bags, the spices and herbs in the burlap bags. You still see that nowadays over there as well. Probably here in the U.S. too, maybe certain areas. But that's just some information that you can read. Bags outside the spice shop. Wood, heavy wood carved door. Clay, pots maybe for like holding, something to drink or other. But this is the first of 2 videos, so I'm going to stop this one and then continue with the next one.